You just got up from your favorite chair to grab a glass of water from the kitchen. Less than 10 seconds later, you walk back in only to find an illegal occupation has taken place. The culprit is still at the scene. 4 legs, lots of fur, and sitting proudly right in the spot you just vacated, eyes half closed with pure satisfaction, as if that chair had been their personal throne all along. But why do dogs always do this? The scientific answer doesn't just explain the behavior, it reveals what your dog actually feels when you're not around. And there's a detail at the end of this video that, once you understand it, will change the way you look at your dog forever. What exactly do you leave behind on that chair? Most of us assume dogs steal our seats because they're soft, warm, or just because they feel like it, kind of like how we pick our favorite spot in a coffee shop. But if that's the case, why don't they just sit in the empty chair right next to it? Why is it always the exact spot you just left, and almost instantly? The answer comes down to a reality we often overlook. Humans experience the world through their eyes, but dogs build their world with their noses. Every single one of us carries a distinct scent signature, a unique blend of personal chemical data shed through our skin, hair, and breath throughout the day. The shirt you wear, the pillow you rest your head on, or the chair you sit in every night all hold these traces so deeply that we completely miss them. But to a nose that is 10,000 to 100,000 times more sensitive than ours, those invisible tracks appear to a dog as clearly as a giant billboard, and that billboard has your name written all over it. That's why animal behavior experts universally agree that the most common reason dogs steal their owner's exact seat is incredibly simple. They just want to be close to you, even when you're not there anymore. It might sound sentimental, but science has literally measured this. In 2015, Professor Gregory Burns at Emory University used fMRI brain scans to observe fully awake dogs while exposing them to various scents, the scent of unfamiliar dogs, familiar dogs, strange humans, and their owners. The results were crystal clear. Only the scent of their familiar owner strongly activated the caudate nucleus in the dog's brain, the region responsible for processing happiness, rewards, and the deepest positive emotions. Not the smell of food, not toys, your scent. What does that actually mean? When you get up from a chair, you aren't just leaving behind body heat, you're leaving behind something that, to your dog, is even more precious than your physical presence. The scent of the person they love most. From their perspective, that chair becomes a mini version of you. Slamming themselves into that seat isn't an act of theft, it's a self-administered hug for when you're gone. But wait, if the answer is really that simple and heartwarming, why do dozens of dog training books, hundreds of articles, and plenty of experts still claim that seat stealing is an attempt to become the alpha dominating you, taking over the space, and demanding you reclaim it immediately? The answer lies in the origin of that theory, and it's a classic textbook example of how science gets misinterpreted for decades. The concept of the alpha wolf actually originated from studies done on captive wolves, where completely unrelated individuals were forced to live together in cramped spaces and constantly had to fight over food. In that artificial, high-stress environment, social hierarchies naturally emerged because they had no other choice. Then, people took those findings, applied them to domestic dogs, and the idea spread worldwide. In 1999, Dr. David Mech himself, the world's leading wolf biologist, who originally helped popularize the alpha concept, publicly corrected his stance after 13 consecutive summers spent observing wild wolves in Canada. What he witnessed out in nature was completely different from what those old laboratory studies had described. Wild wolf packs don't fight for power every day. They live as a family. The individuals we used to call alphas are actually just the parents of the pack leading through experience and care, not through violence or constant intimidation. Mech even repeatedly asked his publisher to stop printing his original book out of concern for the misunderstanding, yet it still kept selling. If you've ever been told by someone, a relative, a dog trainer, or some online article that you have to show your dog who's boss, don't let them on the couch, that person, well-intentioned as they may be, is passing down a theory that the author himself tried to recall over 20 years ago. No one is to blame here, but it's time for an update. And domestic dogs are a far cry from wild wolves anyway. They have evolved for thousands of years right by our side, not to dominate us, but to live with us. The odds of your dog sitting on that chair secretly plotting, "Today I will launch my campaign to take over the house," are virtually zero. The reality is much more mundane. They like you, they love your smell, and they are drawn to the spots where you leave your trace like an unexplainable force of gravity. The theories that seem the most solid are sometimes the ones built on a completely broken foundation from the very start. And what we quickly label as dominance is sometimes just affection misread. By now, you probably understand that your dog sitting on your chair isn't trying to dominate or challenge you. But understanding that doesn't mean you have to like it, and that is completely fair. Some people don't want dog hair all over their furniture, while others just want a space to call their own after a long day. You don't need to feel guilty for wanting your chair back. The issue isn't whether you reclaim your seat, it's how you go about doing it. Because there is one specific scenario that so many pet parents handle completely wrong. You walk over, but your dog stays frozen, stares right at you, and lets out a low growl. Our natural reflex is to take it personally and react by yelling or pulling them off. That is a mistake. A 2017 study from Eötvös-Loránd University showed that dog growls are a sophisticated communication system with completely different vocal layers depending on the context, from playtime, anxiety, and fear to resource guarding. When your dog growls as you ask for your chair back, it isn't a declaration of war, it's a message saying, "I'm uncomfortable, please don't force me right now." When a dog is growling, their nervous system is in a defensive state, and any pressure from you in that moment will only make them shut down further, not make them more cooperative. What they need isn't force, but to be given a safe way out. Call them over in a normal tone of voice, offer a small treat, and let them make the choice to step down on their own. That way, nobody loses, and no tension builds up. In the long run, how you handle these tiny moments is exactly what determines whether your dog truly trusts you or not. And here is that detail I mentioned at the very beginning, something you've probably never thought about before. Researchers discovered that an owner's scent doesn't just make a dog feel good, it actually lowers their heart rate and cortisol levels in a measurable way. You aren't just their favorite person, you are their safe space to calm down. If this makes you curious about what really goes on inside your dog's head when you leave the house, not for 10 seconds, but for hours on end, that video is waiting for you right on the screen.